Hello, this is Obelisk, and welcome to my walkthrough of Transformers War for Cybertron on the Xbox 360 version, and I will be playing it on hard, as per usual with most games I do walkthroughs for that have difficulty levels. I only think the walkthrough is legit if you can do it on the highest difficulty level as possible. That way you're forced to use as much strategy as you can. Anyway, moving right along here, I took the liberty of skipping all the opening cutscenes, and we're going to get straight into the game here. And this video is mainly going to be me explaining a lot of the basics and going through a lot of this first mission here, because this first mission is really not all that strategic. Basically all you have to do is shoot it until it dies and move on, kind of thing, which is not really the best first impression of this game, because things do get a lot more strategic later on. But there's two campaigns, an Autobot campaign and a Decepticon campaign, of course, if you know anything about the two factions of Transformers, which I would hope you would already if you were intended on buying this game. But the Decepticon campaign comes first in chronological order according to the story, so we're starting with that. And at the start of each mission you get a choice of 3 characters. And I chose Brawl here because Brawl is, to me, he's the most well-rounded character for this mission, and that's basically what I'm going to be going with for the most part in this game, is what character I feel fits the that mission the best. And he is a soldier class character, as you can see here. He transforms into a tank, and you can transform at the touch of a button, and you'll be able to use your vehicle weapons, which are fixed onto your vehicle form. Unlike your handheld weapons, you can drop and switch out for any 2 weapons you want to carry. The first weapon we start out here with Brawl is the Neutron Assault Rifle, which is a pretty basic weapon that you start out with a lot of characters in this game, and it's pretty much the go-to default or well-rounded weapon, and it's very reliable. Alright, we got some enemies to fight here instead of those sentry turrets. We got some scout robots here, which are the enemies in this first level are not affiliated to any particular faction. They're just the local militia of this battle station. So then they're neither Autobot nor Decepticon. So I'm just going to be referring to them as either scouts, soldiers, flyers, or brutes, as the enemies will be. I'll mention which ones are which as we go on. But later in the game I'll be referring to them as Autobot scouts and soldiers and all that other stuff, or Decepticon scouts and soldiers, depending on the campaign. But the other 2 characters here are Barricade, and I'm guessing they took a page out of the Michael Bay movie's book by choosing Brawl and Barricade for these primary Decepticon characters here, despite the fact that they didn't really exist in G1. Well, I guess Brawl did. But I mean, this game is mainly faithful to the original 80s cartoon. Just so you know, if you're not familiar with it, which I know a lot of people aren't. But Barricade starts out, I believe, with a Scatter Blaster, which is basically an automatic shotgun that I think can have 5 shots before you have to reload it. And then Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons, which is also a soldier class. He's called the leader in this selecting screen, but as far as I consider the classes go, I usually refer to them as what they are in the multiplayer. And as far as the multiplayer goes, if you transform into a tank, you're a soldier. If you transform into a car, you are a scout. If you transform into a jet, you're a scientist. But I won't be referring to them as scientists. I'll be referring to them as either seekers or aerial bots, depending on what faction they're from, or just flyers if they're the neutral faction like they are in this part. And there's leaders which transform into large vehicles or trucks. And Megatron is called the leader, which he is, but he's still technically a soldier class character. Right here we just picked up another weapon, the Magma Frag Launcher, which is basically a remote grenade launcher where you can launch grenades and activate them at any time. It's actually a very powerful weapon, especially in the multiplayer. I really like it in multiplayer, but it's also pretty good in the campaign. As you can see, launching a grenade near or onto an enemy and then blowing up is probably an instant kill for these scouts here. Now, each character also has abilities too. As you're seeing right here, Brawl is doing this spin melee attack with his mace. That's called the Whirlwind, and that's an ability that Brawl has that's actually very useful at certain times. And that is typically a soldier class ability, although certain other characters will have it throughout the campaign. In the multiplayer, that ability is exclusive to the soldier. But the other ability is this dash, which is kind of nice, and it's easy to get used to with a character you start out playing as, but not all characters have it. But it just pretty much allows you to dodge attacks easier and to make longer jumps. And Sorry if I'm not talking too much about these encounters here, but they really are pretty easy. Like I said, they're just shoot it until it dies and move on. But anyway, back on the subject of Megatron. Megatron starts out with his traditional signature fusion cannon, just like in the original 80s show, and it's basically just a powerful area of effect weapon, kind of similar to the tank cannon that he and Brawl share, but it's handheld, and so it's pretty powerful, but it's not very good at range because it's a slow-moving projectile, and I find that hard. That's really kind of hard to deal with some of these encounters as Megatron, especially because you run out of ammo so quickly. So I prefer to play as Brawl for this mission, and that's my reasons. But I mean, you can choose any character you want. I've gone through this mission on hard as each of the 3 characters, and it's not hard regardless. And but I still think Brawl is the character to go with. But yeah, as far as the vehicle modes go, both Brawl and Megatron have a tank mode, which has the same identical tank cannon. And then Barricade has a scout car mode, which has machine guns on the front of it, which are actually very effective. All the vehicle mode weapons are actually very powerful, and the machine guns on the scout vehicle are good for shooting down aerial enemies or enemies at more of a range than the tank cannon. The tank cannon is powerful, but it doesn't have quite as much of an area of effect as you might think a tank cannon would have. But enough about that. Let's see, what else should I talk about? Our health bar regenerates in little increments, as you can see up top there. There's 4 separate little bars, and it will regenerate within those bars, but if if one of those bars get knocked out all the way, then it will not regenerate past the lines. So we need to pick up Energon cubes to restore our health. As you can see here, I'm having kind of a hard time hitting these guys with the Neutron Assault Rifle at range, but it's still a reliable weapon, I think, and especially because we really don't have much else to go with at this point. This is the best. It's the in-between weapon between Megatron's Fusion Cannon and Barricade's Scatter Blaster, so I really do think it's the best way to go. I'll be using it pretty much as a staple throughout the rest of the game. Let's see, what else? In multiplayer, the different classes have a different amount of health, but in single player, every character has the same amount of health. So you can pretty much get used to having 4 health and having a certain amount of attacks take out a certain amount of health on hard. Like rockets take out like a bar and a half or something like that, or something ridiculous like that on hard. But in multiplayer, not that this is relevant, scouts have 4 bars of health and scientists have 3. I believe leaders have 5 and soldiers have like 7 or 8. It varies quite a bit. Now right here, this jump right here, you can kind of almost make it by using the dash that Brawl has, but then as you can see, that part breaks off. But if you were playing as Megatron, Megatron's abilities are, he has a hover ability, which will allow you to linger in the air and float over there. And the hover ability, while you're in the air, it increases your damage slightly, but it leaves you as a sitting duck, and I really do not like that ability at all. But he also has a drain ability, which drains health from enemies that are near him. And that's actually a pretty nice ability sometimes, especially if you're having a hard time finding health. When we get down here, we're going to find some turrets, and we're going to have to defend this position with the turrets from the oncoming Transformers from the 2 doors up on the top, and eventually the door in the center here. Now you can get an achievement here for killing a certain amount of enemies with the turret ripped off its tripod, similar to how you can do in Halo 3 and all the Halo games beyond that point. And you'll get that achievement very quickly at this point if you just rip the turret off and keep shooting. I mean, that's probably the first achievement I got in this game. But let's see what else. Now when we kill enemies, you'll see they drop little Energon cubes, and those replenish the charge on your abilities. Now, I believe Brawl's abilities charge naturally, except for maybe the Whirlwind might not charge naturally, so you might have to pick up more Energon cubes to replenish the Whirlwind. But the Dash ability is self-replenishing. I know that with Megatron's Hover ability, that's also self-replenishing, but not as fast, and the Drain ability you have to restore with Energon cubes. You get quite a lot of them from killing enemies, so it's really easy to restore them. you'll find yourself picking up a lot of Energon cubes without even needing to restore your abilities. And I believe Barricade's abilities, I think he has the Shockwave ability, and he might also have the Barrier ability, but I'm not quite sure about that. But I'll talk about more about those abilities when I'm actually using a character that has them. But I usually don't go with Barricade in this mission. Like I said, you can if you want to, it's all up to you. We also have a melee attack if you didn't already notice that. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting anything else. Energon comes in these little containers like this, and then it remains there as a cube after you've broken them. And then ammo and weapons and grenades also have their own individual boxes that they come in. And eventually you'll get used to what kind of boxes have what in them. But we won't get any grenades for a while. I'll talk about the different grenade types when we actually get them. Occasionally you will get scouts like those or other enemies that have missiles, and you'll see the little missile inbound warning. And you definitely do want to pay attention to that so you can dodge the missiles okay. Because if you get hit by multiple of them, especially here on hard, then you'll die pretty quickly. Of course, Brawl is pretty tough, so he can eat damage pretty good. And I believe the amount of resistance to damage does apply with each different character class in single player, even though, see, it takes out about almost a bar of health with just that one rocket. Maybe I was over-exaggerating earlier. So as far as the story goes in this game, I will be skipping all the cutscenes, but just to give you a brief overview, if you are a little confused as to what's going on right here, this is before Starscream has anything to do with the Decepticons. So by the end of this mission, Megatron is going to have to recruit him to the cause. I'm not sure if this conflicts with any of the canon or not, but whatever. This part right here, there's a as you can see, we captured a lot of these guys and they're holding them prisoners here, and if you kill all but one of them, you get an achievement. Now the first guy that you see in this area, he's not the one you want to leave alive, because that brute that's holding him captive will kill him anyway. So if you kill all the rest of them and expect to have that guy stay alive, then he'll just be dead anyway and you'll fail the achievement. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. Hey look, it's Jetfire. Looking very much like his G1 self. That's always nice to see. Although, I think that kind of if I'm right, that kind of conflicts with the canon of G1, having Jetfire be an Autobot, and have him actually fight in the war for Cybertron. Because if I remember properly, Jetfire was never really involved in the war. He was frozen on Earth when the war started. But whatever. This game tells the story very well. This game has a lot of Generation 1 fan service for those of you who are fans of the original series. And it has a lot of little nice touches for those hardcore fans. Over here there's a Energon Blaster Pistol, which is a precision weapon you can get headshots with. And I'm going to drop my Magma Frag Launcher for that. And hold on, oh, there's some grenades here. The flag grenades are regular frag grenades, and we can hold 3 of them. Right here's an EMP shotgun. EMP shotgun is actually very good as well, especially in multiplayer. It's kind of a staple weapon, and I really like using this setup in multiplayer. But we're not gonna. The EMP shotgun is just not practical at range, so I'm gonna leave it behind for now and use the pistol, because the pistol is a really long range weapon, and that's kind of what we need for this next part. As you can see, we have a scope, and we can kind of zero in on the enemy's heads. But getting headshots is actually really tricky in this game, especially in this first mission where the enemies are these scouts have really small heads. So you kind of have to get used to where their heads are. But in typical Transformers fashion, the robots have small heads and really, really big, bulky chests and shoulders. So this hallway can actually be kind of tricky. This might be the first part I died when test playing this as Megatron. You just kind of have to sit back here and see if you can snipe these guys and try to conserve your ammo.